The corporate workplace can be a scary, toxic place. All the tropes don't come from nowhere. Usually it's like, I'm gonna get this and you're gonna stab me in the back. We are in a highly fragmented media environment, an increasingly fragmented media environment. We're walking away from some of the ways that we thought about community in the past, vulnerable communities, which are still all consumers.
Today, I'm in community with Tiana Conley, who leads corporate brand and purpose at Mars, the consumer packaged goods giant with more than $50 billion in annual revenue. The 100-plus-year-old privately held company behind household names like M&M's, Snickers, Cheez-Its, and more just completed its acquisition of Kellanova and continues to grow. Tiana shares her journey, what community means to her, and how purpose is the foundation of everything she does. Is there a belief about career growth or leadership that you held early on that you've sort of tossed aside now, you just don't believe anymore?
I love this sentiment of be your whole self at work. And then I realized I'm not sure work is ready for my whole self.
What's the part of your journey that doesn't actually get talked about? This is In Community with Fahad. Before we get into the episode, I'd really appreciate if you take a second to hit subscribe now. Every subscriber matters and helps the show have an opportunity to grow and reach more people. Plus, you'll be the first to hear about what else is coming your way. Thanks for being here. And with that out of the way, let's get into it. Tiana Conley, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here today.
Awesome. Great to be here.
Starting at the beginning, which is where I always start, tell me about one of your earliest memories.
One of my earliest memories is that I was an absolute doll fanatic. Like every single doll, I had it. I had the Barbie Fantasyland. Okay, I had the van. I had a Barbie whirlpool. I had all the Barbies. I was so excited when they finally made Black Barbies, and I had Kenya. I had Flojo. I had all the Barbies. It was everything. Of course, my daughter hates dolls, but it's okay because I made up with my love of dolls for the both of us.
I can't believe your daughter hates dolls. Why does she hate dolls?
You know, I really tried to be that parent, and then I decided I wasn't going to be that parent. So, like, there are pictures of her with little cloth dolls when she was a baby, crying with it, and she's just always been an animal lover. So, I've tried to embrace that with her. And I remember when she was little, I got her a doll vet set, of course, with all the animals that she could heal and make well. And I brought myself a doll so that I could be the nurse. So
you still got to have your doll, basically. You still got
we
to have
made
your...
it work. I did not force her to play with dolls, but I was able to play with her with my doll, and she had her animals. So we made it work.
I like it. I like it. So tell me a little bit about your community then growing up. That's one of your earliest memories that brings you all the way up to your daughter now. But, what was the community and the environment like where you grew up? Tell me a bit about your family, your sort of surroundings and where that was.
I'm from the suburbs of Chicago. I'm from this town called Waukegan. I think my story is a story of a lot of towns, which is changing times and changing demographics. So I'd say in its heyday, it was, a really aspirationally middle class community, a predominantly white community at one point. We were a Black mixed family coming into that community. I think the similar patterns of what you would call white flight ensued. And I would say the community rapidly changed in demographic over the time that I was there. By the time I was in high school, it was predominantly Latino, which was awesome because I had a lot of Spanish skills at that point, which I no longer have. But it was really interesting to experience such a dramatic shift in a community. And I think that's the story for a lot of people.
How so?
In the sense that even if we look at what's happening now, just as a composition of communities change, as access and availability of work changes, people see shifts in their community over time. And I think that probably even if I go back to Waukegan now, which I'm still in Chicago, not in the suburbs anymore, I'd probably see even more changes.
How do you think that affected things as you were thinking about what your life or your career would be like as you were growing up? Did you have a sense of where you would go? Did you have a feel for how things were changing and how that might affect you?
Oh, heck yeah. I wanted to leave. Uh, I'm like, when I turned 18, I'm out of here. And I stayed true to that. I think that was less of, I don't like where I'm from and more like, I know where I'm going. So I always was college bound. Not a lot of my friends went to college. And I wanted city life. I wanted big life. I knew I was going somewhere. I had no idea where I was going, but I knew I was going somewhere.
So then when people look at your career now, you've been very successful, you've worked at some really large companies, you've had some really, really interesting roles. When people look at you and see success, what's the part of your journey that doesn't actually get talked about?
I think you're right. Like, it's funny. I was mentoring someone and they were going through something, and then I started to share the ugly parts of my story. And she's like, why didn't you ever tell me this? Like, I had been mentoring her from high school to college to her professional life. And I was telling her about, for example, when I got divorced and I was a divorced single mom with two kids under two, trying to make stuff work, moved out of where I was at the time, Cincinnati, Ohio, back to Chicago, and tried to rebuild a life for myself. And it was so hard. It was so hard. I felt incredibly excited to be a parent. And I love my kids so much, but it was like a really hard, like, I didn't picture myself as a single parent when I started off. I'm like, I waited a really long time. I got married. We did everything right. Um, and then here I was, a single mom, right? Just, trying to make it. So, um, I think, that's not something people love to highlight. Um, I think I probably don't talk about a lot of the barriers I faced and discrimination at times I faced. Um, that's definitely absolutely part of the story as well.
What was one of those barriers that you think held you back? Or on the flip side, what do you think would have changed things for you and helped really accelerate your trajectory?
If I'm being fair, I think there are moments of acceleration and there were moments of deceleration. Um, I think that I had some people go on maternity leave and they perfectly plan it and they go out and then they come back promoted. Like for me, like, no, that did not happen at all. I had terribly timed pregnancies. They were back to back
Mm.
pregnancies. The second one, was a surprise. And I had several leadership changes in that time. So I kind of ended up being, and this was right around like the middle when I was a brand manager, and I was like a brand manager for like 8 years. Like, I was a super duper duper brand manager, but I just could not I just did not really integrate the family planning with the career planning as thoughtfully as I've seen a lot of other women navigate that. And I was just going with the flow. In hindsight, I think it ended up being a good thing because I went through a divorce at that time. I relocated. I was readjusting to my life. I think it allowed me to be really, really great at something. Without the expectations or the need to strive for the next level, which gave me, I think, a lot of capacity and bandwidth to focus on being the kind of parent I want to be. Like, when I look back at all of my kids' memories, like, I don't like the first tooth, the first time they rolled over, the first time they took steps, the first time I used to grind all their baby food myself. We did no store bought. Nowadays it's a different story. DoorDash, keeps us sustained, um, but back then, like, there's nothing that I missed. I didn't miss a story time reading at school. I didn't, I got to supervise field trips. Even now I'm coaching my kids in events at school. I coach my daughter's volleyball team and I'm coaching one of their science teams. So I guess when I look back on that, what did that barrier allow me to do? Allow me to set my priorities in a way that was important from a total life standpoint, and then have a set of standards for myself on how I wanted to operate. And I think the thing that I agreed with myself is that like, if it holds my career back, it's okay. As long as I can put food on the table.
At what point in your career did you realize that progress actually wasn't just about your talent or about your output? You mentioned that you were a really good brand manager for 8 years, which, from what I understand, isn't typical, right? So, at what point did you realize that there had to be something else to it, that, it was about who are the people in your corner, who are the folks that are going to support you?
Yeah, I think there were two things, and one is maybe internal and one's external. I'd say the promotion to director. I was working in an organization, and I frankly, I just got tired of seeing people with less experience than me getting promoted. It's like nothing against them, but like if if other people are doing this, I kind of feel like I have the qualifications to do this. So I would say that taught me how to drive self advocacy and like campaign for myself. Like because you do have to actively campaign when you're trying to go for new roles or go for promotions. Like, but how do you take all this marketing expertise you have and like apply it to yourself? And that's something I definitely did, and that enabled me to kind of make the next steps, and also with some boldness as well, and reaching out to people and letting them know, hey, I'm interested in joining your team. I'm interested in the next level. I feel like I should be next. Here's my reasoning why. Here are my receipts. Tell me why not. Right. So I think that was that first move to the director stage. And then I'd say at the VP stage, it was really interesting because I only did one rotation as a director before I went to VP, and I got recruited, and the recruiter called me and was like, I think you're the right person for this job. And I'm like, I don't think I have enough experience. I don't think I'm the right person. Like I literally told them like, go away. And they're like, no, we actually do think you're the right person with the right exact amount of experience. And so, honestly, I didn't fully go into it believing in myself, but I'm like, well, I guess if they're saying I'm the right person, I should probably go for it. And I went in with a lot of trepidation. Like I hired a coach to help me um, to get prepared so that I could perform. I was really wondering, can I perform at that level? And I came in and it was seamless. So I think the reflection I had on that is sometimes other people see it in you before you see it in yourself, but also I was like reflecting back to all that time I was grinding as the most super brand manager, and like, oh, I was collecting skills and experiences, and even though maybe my title and pay didn't reflect the experience, I was getting it.
So it sounds like that was a moment where community, right? Folks that you were connecting with and sort of building that network of trusted folks actually had a direct impact on your trajectory.
100%. Like if I hadn't gotten that call, I wouldn't have gone for something like that.
So then, based on getting to that stage, right? You were already a leader, but probably it sounds like in a different way than you expected. Is there a belief about career growth or leadership that you held early on that you've sort of tossed aside now? You just don't believe anymore?
I mean, I think there are a lot of um myths that I've ebbed and flow into over time. Like I love this sentiment of be your whole self at work, and then I realized I'm not sure work is ready for my whole self. So like I figured out how to be authentically myself while holding back at times. Which has been a challenge for me and more times than others, but I think yeah, that's probably been uh, one of the things where I really leaned into that notion that I'm like, oh, maybe I need to lean out a little bit.
Yeah, I feel you. I've definitely had moments like that as well, where am I talking about my best self or my full self? Is it my most authentic self, but not every part of myself? Balancing that, it does make a big difference, right?
100%. Yeah. Where I've landed to on that is like, I'm always myself. Um, but like context matters, right? So like, I like to think of it like clothing. Like, would you dress the same way showing up at work as you would going to a playground, as you would working out, as you would going to a church, as you would, like you probably wouldn't dress the same way in all of those occasions. right? So like you kind of have to be situationally appropriate in your dress, even though you're always yourself. And I think that's helped me a lot. Be like, okay, what is the situationally appropriate version of myself in this moment?
Situationally appropriate. Yeah, I buy that. I buy that. Well, then, when you hear the word community in a professional context, then what does it actually mean to you? What does it actually mean aside from being sort of a buzzword?
Ooh. um, I think community can be a lot of different things. Um, I think in the best sense is like your people. It's like the ones who get you, the ones you don't have to be the kind of yourself. You can be all the way yourself. Um, the people that you rock with, the people that you can do great things with. Um, the people that have your back when it's not a good day or a good season in your career. Like to me, I think that's my best version of community. But I would say not my only version of community. I think in the broader sense of maybe just the larger people in your company or the people across your industry, like that community is super duper important to cultivate and develop too, for a number of reasons. Not only to help you with your own personal network, but I just feel like the infusion of new ideas from different people to help you think about things differently. Like I love coming in settings. I was recently in Leap Virtuosity CMO kind of development program, and like hearing all these leaders from across industries, tech, banking, automotive, etc. Like hearing what's going on, hearing how they're thinking about things. Oh my gosh, we don't think about it that way in consumer packaged goods where I work, right? So, like just getting that perspective, seeing people have taken different career paths, seeing people do it in a way that works for them and being like, oh, I could do it in a way that works for me too. That's been really, really helpful, inspiring, and important.
So then let's talk a little bit more about your role, right? And, the position you're in now in this massive consumer products company. What exactly is your role? Describe what it actually means day to day.
Yeah, that's a really good question because it is like Mars corporate brand and purpose. What is that? If I had to describe it in a nutshell, there are many, many famous brands at Mars: Snickers, Twix, M&M's, Pedigree, Ben's, so on and so forth. Everyone knows Mars brands. Nobody knows Mars. And part of that is because we are a privately held company. We've been a fairly private company in our demeanor and the way we show up in the external world. So my job is to raise the level of fame and awareness of the Mars brand, similar to the brands that are part of Mars. The reason why purpose is part of that is because we see that as integral to how we get work done. Like it truly is a different place to work. It truly is a place that invests in driving impact in communities and for people. And it really is a super special culture, right? So we want to make sure that we keep that purpose-led mindset at the center of all that we do.
How do you describe the culture?
We have I'm going to try not to answer in the way like the company would. I'm going to try to personalize that, but we have 5 principles, and I'd say the one that lands the most for me is called mutuality. And this is
Mhm.
this idea that like my success is your success and a shared success. And I do believe that in my real life, but I just frankly hadn't consistently experienced that in my professional life. Like usually it's like, I'm gonna get this and you're gonna stab me in the back and I'm gonna look for you. Like, like
Yeah.
the corporate workplace can be like a scary, toxic place. Right. And all the tropes don't come from nowhere. Right. Like that is part of the reality. Um, but I would say at Mars, like what immediately and tangibly felt different to me is like people were very invested in my success, and saw their success tied to my success, which is just like crazy. That's crazy, like in a way that should be good and normative, but is so disruptive for how we work. So like I had, peers and people that reported to me and people that were cross-functional, partners and people that were regional partners coming saying, hey, look, when I first came into the company, I was leading our global chocolate portfolio, and they're like, listen, we need you to be good and we need you to deliver because we understand that all of our success is contingent upon all of us delivering together. And that was like an incredible notion. And I'd say like the way it showed up is like literally anybody and everybody will give you their time. Like, I was telling someone else the other day, like last summer, there was an intern that accidentally sent a message introducing themselves, but used the entire company distribution. And, and it was hilarious and probably mortifying for that intern, but like
Yeah.
the most amazing heartwarming thing is like people responded back. They're like, oh my gosh, welcome to the company. I'm happy to join up. Or I went to that school and I wish you great success. And if you ever need to connect and you're in my neck of the woods, give me a call up. Like it's true. If you literally like typed any name into the to field in your email and said, hey, my name's Tiana and I just want to know what you do and learn from you. Like the person would respond back and say, I want to like, let's get together. Let's connect. Let's have coffee. And that is just like nothing I've experienced anywhere else before.
That's really rare, especially you're right. I mean, for someone who's an intern, I think at a lot of companies, sometimes people would sort of discount you because you're not someone who carries necessarily as much authority or weight in the organization. But to be able to send the notorious all staff email and get all these positive responses back, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I
So
mean, there's 150,000 people.
yeah,
So if that just gives you a sense of like, but like I think at a point IT had to shut it down. Like, listen, it's enough. But like the number of responses that came back in that time frame was like incredible.
that's absolutely incredible. So tell me then, I guess from your perspective, given the roles you've had and what you're in right now, what is it that brands or companies are getting wrong when it comes to community or purpose in terms of like really building for communities? This episode is brought to you by Philo Ads. Philo Ads is built for brands that want premium connected TV placements without the premium price tag. With a 55% multicultural viewing audience and highly engaged audiences on fan favorite TV networks like A&E, TV One, MTV, OWN, Lifetime, and more, Philo Ads delivers a CTV experience that gets results. So kick off your next campaign with Philo Ads today at ads.philo.tv. That's ads.philo.tv.
Maybe I'll start with like a recognition that is right, which is we are in a highly fragmented media environment and increasingly fragmented media environment. I feel like we're in a place where we could really say a person with I want to speak to this individual at scale or people in this community with these very niche interests that we were never able to reach before. So I think in that sense, like the intention and in many instances, the execution of that is going very well. Um, I, I wonder, if we're walking away from some of the ways that we thought about community in the past that particularly reached, underrepresented and um, under catered to communities. Right. So, and particularly like vulnerable communities, which are still all consumers, right? So I don't know the answer to on balance when we look back, will we say, did some people get left behind?
So is there a specific mistake that you think brands are making when they try to talk to certain communities, or if they don't try to talk to certain communities? One of the questions that often comes up, and you even use the word as we were talking about ourselves, authenticity. So is there a mistake that you see brands make when they're trying to be authentic, but it feels too manufactured?
I think the mistake that I see is people not learning from mistakes. So I think there's a pretty good playbook for um, looking at and ensuring that you have enough diversity around your table to make sure you're not alienating certain communities. Um, and and people aren't always following it, or maybe intentionally so not following it in this environment. Like when I look at the American Eagle Sydney Sweeney work, like like I have questions. I have questions about like who was around your table and what did they say? And did you listen to them? Or was it on purpose? Or did we feel like it was um, part of our message intentionally? Um, but I wonder if that was like intentional or were they blindsided by that? So I guess, and I'm picking on one. There's probably others, right? But like that, like we've kind of learned that lesson again and again and again and again. So part of it is, are we just not looking? Are we not interested? Was it our intent? I'm not sure.
How do you then believe leaders who are at the table should be thinking about those relationships? So, one, making sure that the right people are at the table, but also from an external standpoint, investing in the right ones.
I'm not sure that there's like a one right answer at this point in time. Like I think we're living in a highly um, dynamic environment that is changing. So I don't want to say people shouldn't do and try new things. I think if we keep doing what we're doing, we're going to fail, right? So
Mhm.
I think it's not about I'm right or you're wrong. It's about how are we intentional about what we're learning? How are we agile? How are we adjusting? And what ways are we using data to help us refine decision making? How are we engaging others in that process? How are we engaging people in that process? Um, Maybe picking on myself and my industry a little bit with consumer packaged goods. I think one thing we've been very fearful of is to turn over um, ownership of our brands. Like we've tend to be incredibly protective of, this is the way Snickers, for example, shows up in the world and how it looks, right?
Mhm.
But I could put any brand in that name. I think, how do we as marketers get comfortable with co-ownership and co-creation? I think there are some good examples out there, but I don't know that anyone has perfectly cracked it. And going back to the point on authenticity, that may look different with different audiences. So I think we're in a heavy learning change curve right now as an industry.
So that's sort of talking about the audience. Then what would you say actually is the difference between an audience and a community?
Maybe the internal external orientation. I'd say
Uh,
maybe community is the broader terminology. Um, so then therefore audiences can be one subsegment of that, but community could also be your network and um, your business partners. It could be the people that support you. So I think community is a bigger term and a bigger idea than a audience that you're speaking to.
Why do you think that matters, that distinction?
I think with audiences, we're trying to understand their needs and we're trying to cater to and deliver something and or drive a behavior. And I think that's marketing in a nutshell. I think with community, it's more inherent to who we are on a human innate level. Um, and aside from and beyond our profession that we're in, how do we exist in the world with whom and what are our relationships? So I think it's a more community is more existential to the human condition. I think it's more an innate human quality that we seek. Like we're not. Everyone keeps talking about this epidemic of loneliness. We're not created to exist alone, and that's the role that community plays.
And then kind of picking up from that, how has that role or how has that sense of community and connection come to life when you're talking about protecting your energy or your mental health or boundaries, especially as you grow in your career and you have more responsibilities and you have a family? How has community actually played a role in all of that?
Community has been so critical and so important. I think the number one thing I um, learned being a single mom is like you cannot do it by yourself. Um, and even in thinking about how I work with my children's father as a parent, which obviously when you get divorced it's not great, right? But how do you like build enough of a relationship to say, hey, there's something bigger that we're doing here, we're raising our kids, how do we look past whatever difference we have to do that higher order thing that we're here to do, and getting on the same page about that has been really huge. Um, as a fiercely independent person, understanding that, back in the day, now the kids are older now, but, I used to bop them around in a double stroller, and, you get to an L station and there's not an elevator, and relying on the kindness of strangers just to like help you get up the lift. Right. Um, so I think it's, um, helped shape me. Like the notion of community is help shape what a richer and more interconnected life could look like. And I can keep giving you examples if I think about the current chapter of life that I'm in, and what's important to me right now. Like I love what I do, but what I do is not who I am. And I've really spent some time thinking about like what is it that I want to do? What is the legacy that I want to leave, and what is really important to me? Um, and there is an important community aspect to that for me, right? Like it's not enough that I'm successful. I don't view myself as successful if other people around me are suffering or not successful. So that's motivated me to say, how can I get more involved, at the community and local level with, nonprofit organizations, to help people wherever they're at with whatever they need. That's an important and critical focus for me in my life right now.
What do you think happens when leaders, whether they're in a big corporate space or a smaller one, what do you think happens when leaders don't actually have the space where they can be themselves at work, where they can, be honest?
I don't want to be too judgy. I mean, that might really work for some people. It might, like, that might be their preferred mode. So I don't want to knock it if that's working for you. If that's you, I'd say roll with it. I'd say for me, like uh, believe in living a radically authentic life. So it like hurts to not be authentic, right? Like it's a practice for me to like not, if I don't like it, people kind of know. If I really love it, people absolutely know. Right. So I think, for me personally, I think it's not fighting who I am and trying to create that, um, space where I can kind of coexist in the space that I am, and find mutual value of like what I bring and what they're looking for. Um, right. So kind of going back to your question on what does it cost? Um, y- for me, like my soul, I guess, in a way, right? Because it's inherent to who I am. I can't necessarily speak to what that means for other people, um, in their journey, but I think it's like, how important is that to you?
If someone listening wanted to build a stronger professional community, what would you say are the first three things they can do right away?
Where you work, meet people you don't know. So just, and it can be in a business context, like, hey, I want to share a project with you or get your input on that. Or it could just be like, let's have lunch or coffee and let me just understand you as a person. I think instantaneously, that's a very low lift way to expand your community internally. I'd say externally, join a network. Come to Hue meetings. Go, go be in an industry event. There's a lot of free ones. Like, join up, and then when you're there, don't be a wallflower. Like, set a goal for yourself and say, I want to make an interaction with two people here today, and I'm going to follow up, and I'm going to get to know those people better. Um, a third thing to build your community is, realize that your community is not, your ability to succeed is not only rooted in your professional community, but your personal, tending to your personal garden and making sure that you are, your full and whole and best self is really important to that too. So really think about what you need in your personal life to like, who lifts you up? Who do you call when you want to celebrate something? Who do you call when you're having your worst day? And make sure that you tend to that garden and, cultivate those relationships, in your personal life too.
If there's one idea that you want people to remember from this conversation so far, what would that be?
I think what I would ask people to think about is like, what matters to you, what's important to you, and go for that. Like, I can tell you the things that are important to me. I can tell you what I'm good at. I can tell you what I did. I don't think any of that matters for you. I think you have to understand um, what you're going for, what's important, what do you prioritize, um, and be brave enough to go after that and act on it. And if you don't know, be open enough to explore it.
What would you say is your superpower?
I'd probably come back to radical authenticity. Although I guess most superheroes have a kryptonite. So I'd say for me, in true fashion, it's something that is inherent to who I am. And when there's an elephant in the room, I'm usually the one to name it or call it out or, to speak to it, which is sometimes an asset and other times a liability. So I'd say I'm trying to learn how to use my superpower better. I would say younger and earlier in my career, I was very sharp with it, and sometimes hurtful to people. And I've tried to be more um, careful, loving, thoughtful, and kind in how I use radical authenticity, and help people understand where I'm coming from, is a place of caring and love.
If a brand had to earn community today, starting from scratch at zero, how should they go about it? And particularly when it comes to earning trust.
Yeah, I would say know who you're trying to serve, understand what problems you're trying to solve for them, and do it well and consistently. Right. So um, it, it sounds simple, but people don't always master it. It's like people really know the audience, they really understand what they need, and then they have a crappy product, or an inconsistent product. Well, that's not earning trust with people, right? Or you have a great product, but you don't bother to connect with who you're trying to reach, or, understanding insights that you're trying to deliver for them. So I'd say really to earn people's trust, you have to do all three.
What's the most underrated skill for modern brand leaders?
Ooh, possibly humility. And I say that as a person that's not incredibly humble. Um, but I think something that I've um, see and experience and witness in leaders that I admire is a sense of humility. As marketers, we're loud, we're boastful. We like to tell everybody everything that we do. We're extroverted a lot of times, right? So um, I think that like that quiet, confident leadership is something that I've really admired in a number of people that I'm thinking about.
What book, podcast, or otherwise have you read or enjoyed recently that you think folks listening should make sure to check out?
A book I love is The Sum of Us by Heather McGhee. And I think it perfectly encapsulates the societal challenges and divisions of this time, except the book is about the past. Um, and so I love the book because um, it reflects on history with a modern lens, and says, hey, we've been here before. Um, and we can learn from that, or we can not learn from that. I'd say the gist is that we live in a society where there's tension over when too many people have access or benefit to something. Um, we'd rather not have it than share it. And I think that's a powerful thing to reflect upon.
All right, we're headed to the lightning round next. Comedy or drama?
Comedy,
Teleportation or time travel?
teleportation,
Best vacation, city or island getaway?
city,
Breakfast, sweet or savory?
sweet,
Dessert, sweet or really, really sweet?
really, really sweet. It's America. Come on. We love our sugar.
What's your go-to hype song?
Anything by Glorilla. I
Okay.
love her. That's my girl.
Any one in particular that jumps out? Sing it if you want to.
I will not sing it, but she's on a duet for Shine with Travis Scott. So
Okay.
I mean, it's very Ratch. So if you listen to it, just get your earmuffs prepared.
Okay, I'm ready. All right. Well, thank you, Tiana. I really appreciate you making the time. It was great to have this conversation.
Thanks for having me. It's been fun.
This episode was brought to you by Philo Ads. Philo Ads delivers premium content, a CTV first audience, and zero stress ad buying that works for everyone, from scrappy startups to savvy marketers. So go ahead, shake up your ad buying strategy and launch your next campaign with Philo Ads today. Make sure to visit ads.philo.tv to learn more. That's ads.philo.tv.